Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to talk about docking and blind baking. So in the earlier, when we talked about fruit pies, we said if you have a fresh fruit pie, that you may want to dock your pie shell prior to baking. And all that means is that you're going to put holes in the bottom and the sides. If you have a lot of pies to do, you can actually get one of these fancy wheels. They're available on Archway. For those of you who are watching in the field, just use the fork the way that your grandma used to. But for speed, we're going to do the centers. And so really that just put the holes in there. We're still going to have to use the fork to go around the sides and then the edges. And the purpose of docking the dough is so that you actually help relieve some of the steam that's going to build up as the butter or the shortening melts in your pie crust. And this will help develop flaky layers in the crust so that the crust doesn't get soggy by the weight of the filling. That's why for fruit pies that tend to make more juice, we can dock the bottom of the pies. If you have a canned pie filling where the syrup is already thickened, then you don't need to because you don't want the syrup to run through. You also would dock a pie if you're going to make a fully baked or a cream pie where the filling isn't going to be baked with the pie shell. In which case, then you need your pie shell to be all the way baked. Okay, so we've officially docked our pie shells. So in this way, you can either add the fruit filling here. Many times people will add quiche or pecan pie with a docked pie shell. Sometimes for quiche and pecan pie, you want a par-baked pie shell. So what we're going to do is we're going to bake these shells blind. And what that means is we're going to take a piece of paper. You can use foil, you can use parchment. We happen to have cake circles. If you're using a really big piece of paper, go ahead, crumple it out first. So that way it can sit all the way in the bottom of the pie shell. And then we're going to add what's called pie beans to the bottom of the shell and press them in. This is going to help keep the shell from puffing up when you bake it, but it will help pre-bake and set the pie. And because you're forming the inside of the shell, you're able to get more filling in there. And so, well, who doesn't like a pie with more filling? So let's do this for the other 4 pies. You'll notice I actually use dry beans. That's why they're called pie beans. You can buy fancy ceramic beans that cost you an arm and a leg. Just get regular dry beans, and you can, once they're cool, you can recycle these over and over and over again. If they get dirty, then you can throw them out, but just go ahead and get pie beans. If you find that you're at home, you don't have time to run to the store, and you thought you did have beans, but you don't, you can also use rice or sugar. Once you do pie beans and bake them, you can't use them for cooking anymore, but if you toast sugar or rice, you can still use those in your meal. So hashtag no waste. Make sure your paper is kind of centered over there. We press the beans in the bottom of the pan, and we're ready to go in the oven. Look at your recipe. Each recipe will tell you whether or not you need to par bake, blind bake, pre-bake. Just follow the recipe. We just wanted to make sure you saw the procedure on how to do it. We're going to put these in the oven. We're going to bake them for 7 to 10 minutes. Then we're going to take the paper and the beans out. If you need to just par bake, you would stop there. If you want them fully baked, then you can put them back in the oven for another 3 to 5 minutes until they're as brown as you want them. They only have to be dry to the touch. It doesn't have to be fully brown. It can be whatever degree of coloration you want as long as the pie shell is dry. We're going to bake these off and we're going to check on our other pies. So we're going to check on our blind baking par baked crust. And at this point, we're gonna pull the shells out. We're gonna go ahead and remove the paper and the pie beans, and then we're gonna check on our doneness. You can see that we have some slight coloration around the side. And so if we were par baking, these would be perfect. So what we're gonna do is, because the paper and the beans and the pies are gonna be hot, I have a bowl handy. I'm using the paper as my shield to remove the beans. They're still gonna be hot, so if you want, you can use a pot holder for this part. Always use a pot holder for the hot pan. And now you can save those beans once they're cool, and you can recycle them many, many times. Get that one runaway out of there. Okay. And so at this point, if we were gonna make quiche, these are perfect. We're gonna stop. If you're gonna make cream pies, which we're gonna make a couple cream pies too, we're gonna put these in the oven. If you can see right here, when you touch it, it's still just a little soft to the touch. We want it to be dry to the touch. So it's only gonna take about 3 more minutes to dry out these crusts. They are already fully baked. We just wanna make sure that they're firm enough to hold the pie slice when they come out and after they're filled. So we'll be back in 3 minutes. So we're back for the final check on our par baked and blind baked crust. We already took the pie beans and the weights out. Now we're gonna pull the crust for the final, and these are gonna be used for our cream pies. You can see we're just slightly more brown than we were 3-4 minutes ago. We're dry to the touch, and there is no compression of the dough because now we're fully baked, and these are gonna be beautiful for our cream pies. Now, if from a region or part of the country, if you would like a little bit more golden brown, you're welcome to put these back in for another minute or two, but they don't need any extra baking. So it would really be personal choice.